like. This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Woohoo! All right.
What do we want? The PRO Act. When do we want it? Now.
What do we want?
PRO Act.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
The PRO Act.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
The PRO Act.
When do we want it?
Now.
Woohoo! All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is an awesome crowd. It is so nice to be outside. Thank you for showing up in a pandemic to support our workers' rights and unions. We are here. My name is Kristen Hoffman. I'm with Our Revolution, and I am co-hosting today with Ashik Sadiq from the Metro DC Democratic Socialists of America. This is a huge honor to be in front of you all in Old Town Alexandria and on social media. Thank you for joining us at home. And we're all here to support workers' rights and to celebrate all of the benefits that unions have fought for in the U.S. and internationally.
So today, as many of you know, is May Day. Also known as International Workers' Day, which many of us consider to be the real Labor Day across the world. The history of May Day is rooted within U.S. borders. In 1886, workers in Chicago began a strike for an eight-hour workday. Police brutality and intimidation during the strike led to fatalities and what is now called the Haymarket Affair. This Haymarket Affair has served to galvanize unions and leftist and socialist political organizers for well over a century. And we are here today to protect our unions and the right to organize in the workplace, which has been under attack for many decades. Many of the greatest gains for the working class in the past century were won with the strength of labor unions as a core part of the backbone of organized left power. Unions have been under attack, but in the 21st century, we know that we need to rebuild union power to win major gains for the working class again, like Medicare for all, like a Green New Deal, and shifting resources from police and militarism to meet real human needs.
Yes.
We're here in coalition today with many organizations. Some of them are the Communication Workers of America, Our Revolution, Democratic Socialists of America, the Virginia Coalition to Repeal Right to Work, Alexandria Labor Caucus, Arlington Young Democrats, Virginia Justice Democrats, and PDA Virginia. All of us together are leading the fight with many others in support of the Protecting the Right to Organize Act. The PRO Act has passed in the House with every Democrat in support. It was introduced in the House by Bobby Scott, a congressman in Virginia. But here we are, waiting for a senator from Virginia to join the rest of the Virginia Democratic delegation and co-sponsor the PRO Act.
Shame! But today's rally is a positive event. Today we are all banding together to demand action that benefits our workers. Towards the end of today's rally, we will be delivering over 1,000 petitions to Senator Mark Warner's doorstep, all of them demanding that he represent us and stand in support of workers by co-sponsoring the PRO Act. We're going to bring on a fantastic group of labor organizers and activists now. Each will speak for a few minutes about why we are here and what we can do to support organized labor. Our chant for today is simple, call and response. What do we want?
PRO Act.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
The PRO Act.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
The PRO Act.
When do we want it?
Now.
Woo! Woo!
Our first speaker, do we have Ryan Kekaris? Okay, let's go to Matt Royer. co-chair of the Virginia Justice Democrats.
Here's Matt. He's the co-chair of the Virginia Justice Democrats, president of Arlington Young Democrats. Matt brought a banner today playing off the insane viral video of Senator Warner making a tuna melt that he is so proud of. But Matt and the organizations he represents know that all workers deserve an extra slice of cheese. And we need it now.
Damn right. All right. Brothers, sisters, siblings, comrades. My name is Matt Royer, and I am the co-chair of the Virginia Justice Dems, the president of the Arlington Young Dems, a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and a proud member of the UAW Local 1981. All right, so we've been coming out here for, okay, I guess just in front of me then.
Let's follow order.
All right, so we've been coming out here for a little over a month now, every Wednesday morning. And before this particular day, somebody said to me, "Aren't you a little afraid of making Senator Warner feel a little uncomfortable?" And I said, well, there's about 1 million people out there who are out of work, underpaid, underrepresented, hurt, and starving, so I think that the senator can feel a little uncomfortable for one morning. It's true, folks. People are hurting, but they're getting organized. And while many people looked around on January 20th and said, well, we don't have anything else to do, Trump is gone, we all here knew that that was not the case. Because there are issues that go beyond right and left. There are issues that are clearly bottom up. There are issues between the haves and the have-nots. There's issues between the people who have the power, the money, and the influence, and the people that do not have it. They're the people who have that power, want to keep that power, and the people they want to keep it away from. So, folks, I don't think what we're asking for is too much. What we're asking for is that people, working people, get treated with the human decency that they deserve. Common decency. People that have kept this country going and have continued to keep this country going during the hardest year of our lives in recent memory. We are asking that they get the treatment and the power that they so rightfully deserve. For God's sake, if President Biden 2 days ago can say that the unions built the middle class and that Congress should send the PRO Act to his desk, what more do you need to hear? What more is it going to take? What is so controversial about helping working people? I mean, I ask, but we know why. We know. Brothers, sisters, siblings, we all know why we have to be here today. It's because the wealthy ruling class knows that by passing this law, the tides are going to start to turn. It's why 80 years ago in the 1940s, they introduced the Jim Crow era right-to-work laws so that black, brown, and working class people could not organize together. Because I don't know if y'all have counted recently, but there are way more working people out there than there are bosses in the United States of America. And we have had enough. It is time that we outright ban these so-called right-to-work laws in the United States. It is time that we restore the power back to the working class. It's time that we support our unions because we have had enough. So I'm asking Senator Warner, Senator Kelly, Senator Sinema, when we look back on this day, which side will you be on? Will you be on the side of the majority of America? Will you be seen as lifting up the working class, or will you be seen as stomping on them? Do you want your legacy to continue to be a cutesy thumbs down on the Senate floor like you could care less about what happened to the working class? So brothers, sisters, siblings, it's time we demand more. It's time that we stand up and fight back. So I need y'all to help me with this one, all right? When the working class is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When the labor unions are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When the working people are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Thank you. Now it is my honor to introduce the Secretary Treasury of the Communication Workers of America, Sarah Steffens.
All right. Who's fired up to pass the PRO Act? Woo! I'm fired up to pass the PRO Act because I know that it will fundamentally shift the balance of power in this country away from corporations, away from the billionaires, to regular working families. And we've never needed it more than right now. You all know inequality is worse than ever after this pandemic. Billionaires have increased their net worth by $1 trillion, while regular workers are furloughed, laid off, unemployed. Our frontline workers, so many of them had to risk their own lives just to put food on the table. The PRO Act will change that. It will reverse that legacy. You know, a lot of us felt so grateful and continue to feel so grateful to our frontline workers, our essential workers. And we did things like stand out on the sidewalk and light candles. We banged pots and pans. We said thank you to our checkers at the grocery store. And that's great, but if we really want to respect workers, if we really want to respect our frontline workers, we have to give them the PRO Act. We have to give them the right to organize. If you haven't been through a workplace union election, it's hard to understand the lengths that the bosses will go to stop workers from standing together to claim our power. They pull out every trick in the book. There's a whole industry around this, but mostly it's about making workers scared, threatening them with wage cuts, threatening them with layoffs and plant closures, threatening them day after day after day as they delay elections over and over and over again, holding captive audience meetings, one-on-one meetings, in the hopes that they can scare workers out of voting yes for a union. But you know what? Despite all of that, we do still win unions. Organizing is going on, even throughout this pandemic, stronger than ever. But there's one more thing that the PRO Act will fix, besides giving workers fairer elections, eliminating captive audience meetings, eliminating the dirty tricks that employers use to delay elections. It will make it possible for those workers who stood up bravely, fought for their union, to actually get a first contract. I want to tell you a story that's been happening right here in Virginia. The Tidewater Media Guild, the workers at the Virginia Pilot, the Daily Press, they came together with all their sister papers, and they won union representation. They won union representation in September 2018, and they are still fighting for their first contract. That is wrong. As they've been going out and working in public throughout the pandemic, risking themselves to make sure that people get the news that they need, they can't get this contract. Meanwhile, their employer has cut the staff in half, cut their pay, furloughed people, shut down the newsroom. There are workers at these papers who are selling plasma in order to put food and groceries on the table. That is not right. The PRO Act gives real penalties for employers who will not negotiate a first contract. It speeds the process with mediation and arbitration. Let's get those workers at the Pilot and every other place that's organized that's still fighting for that first contract. Let's get them those contracts. Let's pass the PRO Act. I have a couple of my colleagues here that I want to call up from NABIT CWA who can tell you another story of just what happens under this current unfair stacked system when workers come together. Come on up, Bob Williams and Tyrone Riggs.
Thank you, Sarah. And good afternoon, sisters and brothers and union members. It's a beautiful May Day, ain't it? Workers' Day. And I'm Bob Williams. I'm the president of NABET CWA Local 52031. And NABET stands for National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians. And what we are, we represent ABC, NBC, PBS, NPR, and most of the other outlets that you get your news and information from. And we provide a professional workforce, you know, and a unionized workforce. You know, communications industry has been unionized, our union's 80 years old. And I'm here, I got some good news. We haven't had a lot of good news about unions lately, but I got two pieces of real good news. And the first is, it looks like we're gonna get voluntary recognition at NPR for a group of digital employees. And these employees, just like IT employees, are not being organized, but they're the way of the future. You know, that's where everything's going, is with digital and IT. And we're trying to get these young people into unions. And the other good news I have is in 2003, CNN fired all their union employees. And these guys was out on the street fighting for justice for literally 16 years. And last January, we settled a suit with the NLRB for $76 million in back pay. That was the largest back pay settlement in the history of the NLRB, which is 86.
Union busting.
That's what it was.
Union busting.
That's what it was. And you know, I'm 66 years old. And since 1980, when I was riding on this aircraft carrier with no rights, because I signed them away, and Reagan came into office, they've been stepping on the neck of the union ever since then. You know, and we got to know, man, that we're all in this boat together. They could try to break us up by race, age, and everything else, but we're all in this boat together. And Jeff Bezos is making the money. But really, I'm not gonna. I get up here, I'll start preaching, man. But I'm gonna introduce my man here. This is Tyrone Riggs, and he was one of the discriminatees from CNN that lost his job, that never was able to get back to type pay, because we have good paying jobs. We made good money to live up here in this DMV area, which ain't cheap. And he was one of the guys that kept the faith for that whole 16 years. And he finally got some justice last year. So this is Tyrone Riggs, loyal Local 31 member.
How you doing, everybody? It's good to be here. Good to see everybody together. 16 years ago, CNN took my job away, put me and my colleagues out on the streets. It's been hard. Some of us have died waiting on justice. Many of us, between divorce, lost their homes, families broke up, bankruptcy courts, you name it, it happened. I can tell you a lot of things, but none of them are good. I can tell you about not having power, not having money to pay a cell phone, not having money when your kids say they want to go somewhere, when you were accustomed to taking them somewhere, because you no longer have that $90,000 job because you lost it for no reason of your own. 16 years. I never gave up. Of course, I was sustained by God above, and it's just been a miraculous thing. And I had magnificent help and support. Probably the greatest attorney I've ever known, Keith Bullock, and our president, Bob Williams, who stuck it out for 16 years, and we got the justice. Everybody's comfortable, but still, actually everybody is not still comfortable. Many of us still don't have jobs. I still haven't got a job. I got the settlement money, but I still don't have the job. I work on Capitol Hill. I'm going through the same exact thing right now. The same thing. I'm going through the same thing. but I have the same two fighters here along with me in my camp, so I know we'll be fine. But I just want to say that if we all stick together, even though it seems like it's rough, and sometimes you know, man, this isn't going to work, it's not going to help, what are we doing? We're out there marching, or we're gathering, we're talking. They don't hear us. They hear us. They hear us because we're all together, and all we have to do is stay together. Nice having you all out here.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Tyrone. I think we can all agree 16 years is far too long to wait for justice, and nobody should be fired for trying to exercise their right to form a union. And that's why Senator Warner does not get a pass and nobody gets a pass. I want to call up next Bob Mullenkamp. He's a labor lawyer, a fighter, and a champion for workers for a long, long time. He's going to tell you a little bit about what some of what he's seen and why the PRO Act would help reverse that.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a union organizer. I was a national organizing director for 1199, the hospital workers, for a long time. When they asked me to speak, they wanted to know if I could tell a union busting story about Virginia. So let me tell you a story I know about union busting in Virginia. I was the Teamsters organizing director. The largest non-union over-the-road trucking company was Overnight. You may recognize their blue and gray trucks. 14,000 workers. In 1994, they started coming to us from terminals all over the country. We organized the whole company. In 1995, we had 57 elections at terminals all over the United States. We won most of those. At 17 of those terminals, Overnight committed such outrageous, unfair labor practices, violated the law, that since 1935, we had the biggest case in United States history. The labor board, sought injunctions against them in 17 terminals, not new elections, but recognition and bargain with the union. Overnight, a multi-billion-dollar company, was a subsidiary of some other little company called Union Pacific Railroad. Overnight's headquarters is here in Richmond, Virginia. Union Pacific, the 141st largest company in America, started gathering signatures from the entire Congress people all over the country. The entire Virginia delegation, senators and House members, signed a letter to Congress. Gingrich took over in 1994. The Republican House held a hearing in the House Labor and Education Committee on this poor little small business that the Labor Board was persecuting. And they told the Labor Board, the National Labor Relations Board, that if they pursued this case against Overnight, they would cut their budget by 30%. The board dropped the cases. For the next 13 years, they continued to violate the law. Only in 2006, UPS, United Parcel Service, bought Overnight. We had Teamsters 175,000 members at UPS. They insisted UPS stay out of it and let the workers have a union if they wanted. 2 years later, over 12,000 Overnight workers joined the union, and they had a contract 14 years after they started organizing. This union busting is now the norm. What I described is not the exception. By the way, they did everything. Fired people, beat up one of the women in Kansas City, etc. When they knew they were going to lose an election at one of these terminals, the board agents would show up with a ballot box and the ballot at 6 o'clock in the morning. They would padlock the gates and not allow the election to take place. We had to start all over again, even to win an election. In 1993, a guy, some of you may know this, a guy named Marty Levitt published a book, Confessions of a Union Buster. How many of you read that book? It's been out of print for a while. It's coming out in print again in July, a new edition. You got to read it. And basically what he says is, he made millions of dollars being one of these union busters. He said union busters are terrorists. And the corporations who hire them know they are thugs. Senator Warner, that is who you're defending. Thugs and terrorists. And this is now the norm. So, obviously we have to pass the PRO Act. We have to change the norm. We have to give workers any chance of organizing. So I want to end with that, and I want to end with a cheer, maybe a new cheer that I think is very appropriate. I'll say it once and then let's all do it 3 times. Democracy at work is a right, not a fight. Democracy at work is a right, not a fight. Democracy at work is a right, not a fight. Democracy at work is a right, not a fight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bob, for fighting the good fight. What's disgusting?
Union busting!
That's right. All right, next we have Danny Sendejas from La Colectiva.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. I'm gonna keep my mask on then, but if you can't hear me, let me know, okay? So, as folks said, I'm Danny and I'm an organizer with La Colectiva. Before I continue, ¿hay personas que hablan español aquí? Ok. Como es Día Internacional de Trabajadores, también vamos a hablar en español, ¿está bien? Y vamos a hacer el pueblo unido. El pueblo unido. El pueblo unido. El pueblo unido. Y para hablar un poquito en español y luego vamos a hablar en inglés, la lucha por este proyecto de ley es una lucha también de nuestras vidas. Porque sabemos de que a diario nuestra gente se arriesga para mantener la vida de nuestra sociedad, ¿sí o no? Sí. Y en particular ahorita con la pandemia, los políticos, las corporaciones, los élites han obligado a nuestra gente a salir a trabajar a pesar del gran riesgo de nuestras vidas, de nuestras enfermedades, y los ricos han beneficiado multimillonariamente mientras nuestra gente ha seguido sufriendo durante esta pandemia. Eso es injusticia, pero tenemos que ver el análisis del por qué. El por qué viene siendo de que políticos como Mark Warner son comprados por compañías como Amazon. De que políticos como Mark Warner reciben 10 de miles de dólares cada año de corporaciones como Amazon, que dicen de que son esenciales durante una pandemia. Pero Jeff Bezos anda en la calle, no. Jay Carney anda en la calle, no. En los albergues, no. Es nuestra gente. Esta lucha, cuando decimos de que es por las vidas, es para que la clase trabajadora tenga la autodeterminación de decidir cuándo, cómo y por qué trabajar. De que los salarios sean dignos y que también sea el derecho de organizarse y no ser oprimidos por la clase élite. All right, now I'm going to say it in English because I know maybe lots of folks couldn't keep up. But that's all right. That's all right. We're in community, right? So I was saying that the fight, well, we see here, union, right? The fight for unions, the fight for organizing is a fight for life as well. And so I want to bring it to this space. Pushan Brown, who is a worker at the Springfield warehouse of Amazon, who died suddenly in January after she was made to do COVID testing for Amazon at that warehouse. Her sister was trying to be here, but she's sick this weekend, so she couldn't be here. So I want to bring in Pushan. I want to bring in all the people who have died during this pandemic. Now we know it's mostly black and brown people, right? All the people who have gotten sick, same, mostly black and brown people. Poor and working people. But even before the pandemic, we know this has been the case. And we know that a lot of it is because of the fight to organize has been stifled by politicians, has been stifled by corporations, and politicians like Mark Warner who take tens of thousands of dollars by corporations like Amazon. I know everyone here is aware of what just happened in Alabama, right? And we're in full support of folks workers organizing there, and folks who are trying to organize here. But we know that it's not a surprise whenever the right to organize is not something that is valued completely. And so again, tying it back to this is a fight for life, because during this pandemic, workers were forced to go out and work. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos was sitting pretty, right? That it was mostly black and brown people who were being forced to work these essential jobs, trying to maintain everything going on, but it was our folks getting sick, it was our folks dying. And then another aspect of it is that we also know corporations like Amazon, not just Amazon, but a whole bunch of them, right, are also complicit in policing, are also complicit in deportations, are also complicit in wars in other lands. And so they are killing us and forcing ourselves to work for them. And so this is why we say it's a fight for life, that if we have the right to organize, that if we have the right to unionize, we have the right to choose, to self-determine why we're working, what we're working toward, the dignity and conditions of our workplace, and making sure that we are not complicit in killing other people. And killing our own loved ones, to be real. And so with that said, I want to ask folks to please continue to support the fight for the PRO Act, to please continue to support workers here in our communities. A lot of workers at the Springfield warehouse, for example, have expressed concerns about the passing of Pushan, but have been afraid to speak up, right? And that's because they know that the protections aren't there. So we got to keep fighting. We got to make sure that all workers have the ability to organize, unionize, regardless of background, regardless of race, regardless of immigration status, and making sure that we are fighting for liberation. And I also want to say, because I saw him around here, that it's not a surprise who is protecting the senator right now? The cops. And so let's be real, y'all, that if we want to fight for life in union organizing, we also got to do it against the institutions that oppress black and brown people. Thank you.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
All right, thank you, Danny. Next we have Ramon Bruce from ATU Local 689.
Go, Bruce.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ramon Bruce. I'm a bus operator for Armada Montgomery Division and an assistant business agent for Amalgamated Transit Union Local 689. I am here today to explain a little bit about why in the transit sector need the PRO Act. Since 2018, transit workers have been united with one goal in mind: equal pay for equal work. Almost a half a century a year ago, public transit in this region was run by private companies. These companies all failed because their interest was to make money, but the riding public needed them to provide service. The only way they could make money was by cutting costs, either by cutting workers' wages or cutting the quality of service. WMATA, the very system we have in this region today, was formed as a public transportation authority to correct those failures of the past. But in the last few decades, private companies have tried to take over the transit work of this region again. But transit workers in ATU Local 689 were not going to let that happen. We fought and we organized to bring all transit workers together into the labor movement. We went shop by shop, system by system, because we knew that the biggest threat to our wages and benefits at WMATA was unorganized, non-union workers. The transit workers of this union have been fighting hard. Since 2015, there have been 2 strikes. At Fairfax Connector, a near strike at Alexandria Dash, nearly a strike at Challenger Metro Excess in Gaithersburg. 2 strikes at PRTC's Omni Ride in Prince William County, and an 85-day long strike at a privatized WMATA bus garage at Centerbury Road. The first of its kind in 40 years. As we speak today, the workers at Loudoun County Transit are fighting to keep their union against a union busting law firm and their employer, Keolis. We are proud of what we have won. We are proud of what we have gained from our members. But we need the legal and political tools to make this easier. It should not have to be this hard in this country to form and to keep your union. The PRO Act would even the playing field just a little bit, so that we're not always on the defensive. When we first got out to Centerbury Road to organize the transit workers there, we got illegally thrown off the property. The first thing the police said to us was, "This is Virginia. This is a right-to-work state." Our union workers would never forget that. There's nothing in the state's right to work to law that prevents workers from joining or forming unions. But it shows that the real way that most people hear a right-to-work law is the entire state being anti-union. And in that moment, workers saw the union members and organizers were getting escorted off the property by police. That sent the message to them that everyone would oppose them if they tried to unionize. But we need to send a new message. The PRO Act would strengthen the labor movement not only because of its bans on captive audience meetings, fines, or employers for workers' rights violations or repeal of right-to-work laws, but it will also strengthen the labor movement because it would be the first time in nearly a century that workers would hear the message from their government. Not only that they have a right to join a union, but they should join and form unions. Senator Warner, we need your support. We need you to support the PRO Act. Working people have been suffering, and we know that the labor movement is the only solution to this situation that we're in. Thank you.
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
What's appalling? Warner stalling! What's appalling?
Warner stalling!
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
What's appalling?
Warner stalling!
That's right. Okay. Woo! All right, I have a little safety brief for you right now. If you've been here a really, really long time, if you go north on the corner of Wilkes and Lee, there's a Porta-John. And over on the picnic table, there's some water and snacks. Make sure you stay hydrated. If anyone's feeling like they got a little bit of arm strength left, if they want to switch out with some of our great human props back here, I think they would appreciate a little break too. All right. And now I want to introduce our next speaker, who is, quite frankly, one of the prime reasons why we are out here today. It's going to be Nurse Rita Collins from National Nurses United. Our nurses are really, really amazing servants of humanity, and they truly understand and believe that healthcare is a human right. The nurses' requests for their employers not only keep the nurses safe while working under high stress and, quite frankly, very dangerous positions and scenarios, but their asks support the patients, us. So let's give a warm welcome to Nurse Rita and a round of applause for all of our nurses on the front lines of this pandemic.
afternoon, everybody. It's good to see you all. My name is Rita Collins. I'm a registered nurse and a proud member of National Nurses United. Who's got the power? What kind of power? Union power. Union power gives workers the collective strength and the collective voice to demand of our employers better working conditions, greater safety, better benefits, and better pay. For nurses, that means improved patient care. Union power enables us to stand together against the abuses of bosses and CEOs who try to keep us in our place and restrict our voice. Today, unions are under attack from obsequious managers and greedy CEOs who put profits before people. That ain't right. The PRO Act will stop that. The PRO Act will enhance workers' abilities to organize, to deter and punish employers who violate workers' rights, will strengthen federal labor laws that will allow us to organize for the public good. In nursing, it means protecting RN's working conditions, which means improved patient care. Unions keep the bosses from making all the rules and breaking all the rules for profit. Through union power, we the workers improve our working conditions and worker satisfaction, not only for us, but for nurses. Improved conditions directly impacts improved patient care and better patient outcomes. The California Nurses Association won laws passed in California requiring safe nurse-to-patient staffing ratios, guaranteed in the contract. The more registered nurses who are unionized, the easier it is to have our demands met, like optimal PPE during a pandemic, demands that were made by NNU nurses and won. Just Thursday, April 29th, 2021, Maine Med, one of the largest hospitals in Maine, their nurses voted to join NNU. So now we are 22,000 nurses stronger. This gives us the collective voice to ensure greater safety for our patients, improved safety for all our allied healthcare workers, and greater safety, security, and satisfaction for ourselves. Stand with union nurses. Pass Protecting the Right to Organize Act.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
All right, thank you very much. So the next guest today is Will Addig, and he's from the Union Veteran Council. The Union Veterans Council brings working class veterans together to speak out on the issues that impact us most, especially the need for good jobs and a strong, fully funded and staffed Veterans Affairs. They hold private enterprise and elected officials accountable for their words and actions. I like that. Being pro-veteran means more than just flashy words. It means you fight for real solutions. The government paid for my college education through the military. So as a veteran of the current endless wars, I'd like to welcome Will Addig.
When workers are united, we're never divided. When workers are united, we're never divided. Are you fired up? Yeah. Are you fired up to pass the PRO Act? Yeah. My name's Will Addig. I'm the Executive Director of the Union Veterans Council at the AFL-CIO. I'm a proud combat infantry veteran. I'm a union journeyman pipe fitter, and I'm a poor kid from Southern Illinois. That's my story. When I mean that when we can get together as workers and we're not divided, we can do so many things. As a veteran, I get thanked for my service all the time. I've got my own personal opinion of that. But what I can tell you right now is there's patriots right here in this park.
Yes, we are.
We have people right now willing to fight for some of the most patriotic things you could think of. Healthcare, housing, for our fellow human beings that just need the safety of our American shores, right? The teeming masses. When did all those things start being not American, right? So I'm proud to stand here with so many American patriots that are fighting for freedom. The most important freedom right now that we can have is the ability to band together and fight for each other. And right now, years of labor law has divided us, has taken apart the different parts of our groups of workers, right? Whether you're a union or you're non-union, whether you're a construction worker or a nurse. We've got to figure it out. We've got to find the tool and the way to get together and band together and to make this country what people like to talk about it and say it is. You know, a lot of people, you know, somebody he used his name earlier, but I don't use his name, but some guy in the 80s said that America was a shining city on the hill. And there's bumper stickers all over the country. I believe America is the shiny city on the hill. But right now, only a few people have the keys to the gates that he talked about. And when we get together and we do things like pass the PRO Act and get Senator Warner to sign on to it so that Virginia is not the last state, we give so many more people those keys to an opportunity at the American dream. When I came home from the military, I found myself, you know, struggling like so many other veterans, almost becoming a statistic. And mostly because it was where I found myself. I found myself without a job, a degree, or a future, it seemed like. But then I found a union card. And I sat in a welding booth and they said, you're going to be a union welder, you're going to make a living wage, you're going to have retirement. And I said, man, that's amazing. Why can't all my fellow veterans have that same opportunity? So I decided I was going to put that sergeant's cap on and I was going to start fighting for other veterans to get jobs. And then I realized that my voice as a veteran, as someone who really cares about this country and cares about all the people in it, no matter who you are, that I was going to be able to make some changes. And I got a cheap suit and went up and started talking to politicians like Mark Warner, right? And we were able to achieve change. We got more veterans to come together, right? So on my journey, right, I realized that labor was one of the biggest answers. It's a thing that can bring us all together. Whether you're a really progressive person or just someone who just wants to live your life out. If you can not have to worry about paying for groceries or your electrical bill, you can live a heck of a better life. We're not asking for like handouts or really big things. We're just wanting an opportunity for that American dream we talk about. You know, I'm gonna close real quick because I don't even know how long I've been up here. I've changed my speech a couple times, but it's really important for me to be out here with so many people who aren't in unions. I think that's what's so important. So for me, you know, my labor career started off in Illinois, and right then they started to try and bring right to work into Illinois. And I remember going to my first rally to stop right to work in Illinois, and then I went up to Wisconsin when we were fighting to stop right to work there, and we got beat, right? Then I came here to Washington, D.C. We stopped the shutdown for federal workers, and I went out to Missouri to stop right to work right there. What I want to do here in Virginia is stop right to work forever. And that's what the PRO Act does, and it's time Mark Warner gets on the bill. Thank you all for being such great patriots. I want you to remember that when you have your conversations about this. This is the most patriotic bill you could ever think of. It allows your fellow Americans to achieve greatness. When they talk about bootstraps, right? They like to talk about bootstraps. If there's no bootstraps, there's only a sole to a shoe. What are you supposed to grab onto? What you grab onto is your neighbor's hand and your fellow worker's hand, and you unite and you organize and you beat back corporate greed. So thank you so much. Keep up the fight. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now! Thank you. All right, our next guest is Brendan Cardaci, and he is from the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union. The UFCW is a labor union made up of 1.3 million men and women hardworking in the U.S. and Canada. And they believe in the power of ordinary people coming together to improve their lives and make a lasting difference for all working people. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, great to be with you. I'm Brendan Cardaci. I'm with Local 400. I'm a shop steward. I've been a clerk at Giant Food for 15 years. And I can't, even begin to explain how important it is that we all stand here today and call out Mark Warner for not coming out on behalf of the PRO Act. All our brothers and sisters will benefit from this. We need a living wage. We need benefits. This gives the right to organize enshrined, like so many other fundamental rights we already have in the Constitution. Now, when you stand here today, I want you all to remember, I'd like to run through a chant real quick. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Right to work has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Right to work has got to go. Hey, ho, ho! Right to work has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Right to work has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Right to work has got to go. Thank you, brothers and sisters. And that's a big reason I'm behind the PRO Act. We need to kick Jim Crow right to work out of our beautiful state here. I'd also like to send a shout out to the public workers of Alexandria, who you may or may not know just won their collective bargaining rights. So solidarity if any of y'all are here today. Mark Warner, no matter how much money Amazon gives you, it's not going to buy you votes. And you're either with us or you're against us. So stand up and do the right thing. We all work too hard. We need justice in the workplace, fairness, justicia, igualdad, hermanos, hermanas. So we need to do the right thing. I'm calling on you today, and then we'll deal with those two in Arizona. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Love y'all.
All right, we're here to tell Mark Warner, stop repeating Uber's lies. Protect the right to organize. Stop repeating Amazon's lies. All right, next we have Josh Armstead from Unite Here Local 23.
All right, perfect. Not so perfect.
It works, but just right into it.
There we go. Can everybody hear me? Yeah! Good afternoon, comrades, brothers, sisters, everybody. My name is Josh Armstead. I'm with Unite Here Local 23, 7,000 members in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. I'm also a member of DSA. I'm also a sergeant at arms for Nova Labor Federation, the local labor council. Right, we're here to pass the PRO Act, right? Yeah! Okay, good. So let's actually go take a step back. And that step back would be analyzing history, right? Like, let's talk about the first original sin against free labor in this country, which was slavery. We are standing in Virginia, the heart of the former Confederacy. Right to work is an explicitly racist law that the PRO Act would remove. It is explicitly racist. Our bargaining power, we have to think of the history of like all class struggle. We have to think of the cycles of history. Us as working people were oppressed. There were no unions. People started to organize. Black people in the fields, white workers in the factories, everyone migrating, coming together and realizing that we were all getting screwed. And then the bosses realized that we were gaining power. And so they fought back. They used the state. They used private thugs, and yet still people persisted and persevered. Then we had a reaction. We made the government. We got the National Labor Relations Act and 35. We got a whole bunch of other laws. And the bosses then reacted. Their reaction was right to work. Right to work, the dreams of reventionists, of plantation owners, of people who made their money by oppressing black people, white people, all working class people across this country, starting in the South, and we see it cropping up to the North. I want right to work dead. I want it dead. I recently found out a little bit of a personal story. I recently found out my great times 5 grandfather served as a soldier in the United States Colored Troops, right? Like, I'm in no type of, I'm no veteran. I've been in no type of war except the class war. But I see it now as continuing his struggle 150 years later. Here we are, now 70 so odd years later after right to work. And these same people have expanded it all across the country. Mark Warner and all these other politicians, they need to make a choice. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of the working class? Are you on the side of Americans who have moved on to the 21st century and want to see good for themselves and their neighbors? Or are you on the side of enslavers, of a distorted past, of an original sin that should have been dead 150 years ago in 1865 and should have never been uttered in the 40s? For God's sake, we fought 2 wars over this shit. Excuse my language for everybody. We fought 2 wars over this, and now we're here again. Let's finish the class war. Let's pass the PRO Act. Mark Warner, once again, what side are you on? Thank you, and good afternoon.
All right, give it up for Josh. Next, we have Tim Gibson from the American Association of University Professors.
All right, what do we want? When do we want it? Now! All right. I'll keep it short. I'm going to go against type as a professor here. We are the GMU AAUP. We are a group of professors, members. We believe in unions. We are also part of the GMU Coalition for Workers' Rights. And right now, as we speak, we are fighting for the contract workers on the campus of George Mason University. Right now, they're trying to organize with their contractor, LT Services, and they are having their rights violated. All they want is fair wages, safe working conditions. They want benefits and a future for their families. And they are trying to organize. But the bosses, the contractors, and by extension the university is intimidating them. They are harassing them, the organizers, firing the organizers. Right? What is disgusting? Union busting! That's right. All right, so they need our help, and that's why we're here today. They need, guess what they need? They need the PRO Act. We need to stop the harassment and the intimidation that happens when workers try to organize. All right, so many of our members are historians, and they would tell you that the American middle class was built on strong unions and the right to organize. The bosses, they want us separated. They want us powerless, right? And the bosses have since my lifetime, I'm 50 years old, my entire lifetime, the bosses have dismantled the American middle class by dismantling the right to organize. That has to stop. What do we want? When do we want it? Now! Senator Warner, we need the PRO Act now to protect the rights of our workers, including the contract workers in George Mason University. The adjunct professors at George Mason University who teach for poverty wages. They need the PRO Act. They need a union. Pass the PRO Act now. What do we want? The PRO Act. When do we want it? Now. Yeah.
All right, folks, we have one more speaker, and then I am going to be making a phone call with all of you in the background. That's right. All right, give it up now for Jake Burdett. He's from Our Revolution, Maryland, and a former Amazon employee.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jake Burdett. I'm a 23-year-old from Howard County, Maryland, and from August 2020 to March of this year, I was an essential worker working in an Amazon warehouse in Baltimore. I'm here today to speak in favor of the PRO Act in Congress, which would make it not only easier for employees to unionize, but also greatly improve working conditions for non-unionized employees too. But before I go into detail about the PRO Act, I'd like to share with everyone some of the day-to-day conditions that my coworkers and I experienced at the Amazon warehouse. At my warehouse in Baltimore, I worked most shifts with 230 other frontline essential workers, all crammed together in one single building. This dangerous setup explains why we got a notification about once a week of a new coworker getting COVID. In fact, in the week before I stopped working at Amazon in late March, one of our coworkers who had caught COVID literally died, causing murmurs to go around that they should shut down the warehouse entirely. This should not be surprising, as Amazon is willing to let people with the 100.3 degree temperature come into the warehouse to work with us. None of us wanted to be in an area with hundreds of other people during a deadly viral outbreak. We had to be because our job required us to be. While much of the economy is struggling during COVID and many businesses have been forced to close down, it's actually been quite the opposite for Amazon. Business has been booming. With more people afraid to shop in person now because of COVID, online shopping on Amazon is higher than ever, and despite massive profits in large part due to the circumstances COVID has created, Amazon has still opted not to pay their employees hazard pay. They paid hazard pay for the first 3 months of the pandemic, but despite the virus getting much worse and lasting for another year, they have opted not to continue paying employees hazard pay while their employees literally risk their lives to make the Amazon executives richer. Although Jeff Bezos recently left his role as Amazon CEO, he is still executive chairman, and in the 5 or so minutes I used to give this speech, Jeff Bezos will make over $1 million. So don't tell me Amazon cannot afford the hazard pay. The truth is that my coworkers and I weren't being paid hazard pay, not because Amazon can't afford to do so, but rather because we had no union to negotiate on our behalf to force Amazon to give us decent treatment. Amazon's notorious for their anti-union practices because they know unions are good for workers and it will cost them more to provide us better pay and benefits. We saw the extent Amazon will go to fight any unionization efforts recently with the historic and inspirational but ultimately unsuccessful union drive in Bessemer, Alabama last month. During this battle, we saw Amazon use every trick in the book, including anti-union propaganda, fear-mongering about union dues, and even offering workers $2,000 to literally quit their job. They took such drastic measures because they know what is at stake for them here. Well, I've got bad news for the corporate leadership at Amazon. The warehouse in Bessemer was only the beginning. The workers in Bessemer showed Amazon workers all across the country that it's possible to organize at their warehouses and at the very least force a vote. The Bessemer vote was only the first battle in what I'm sure will be a prolonged effort as other Amazon warehouses begin to follow the lead of the brave workers in Bessemer and attempt to organize their own warehouses. The truth of the matter is that no amount of anti-unionization efforts on the part of Amazon can stop their workers from eventually unionizing. Amazon makes this conclusion inevitable through their horrendous treatment and exploitation of their workers. When your employees are literally pooping in bags and peeing in bottles during shifts because they don't have time for bathroom breaks, it's only a matter of time before workers rise up to organize and make things better. I'm wrapping up here, sorry. The PRO Act will be groundbreaking legislation that would make it much easier for Amazon workers and other employees around the country to unionize their workforces. As Democrats, we like to say that we believe everybody has the right to unionize, but if current law makes it nearly impossible to unionize, that right is greatly impeded. With President Biden expressing support for the PRO Act and the House Democrats passing the bill, Both President Biden and the House have kept their promise to the working class. The ball is now in the court of the Senate. 47 other Democratic senators, including Joe Manchin of all people, have also kept their promise to the working class and signed on to the proactive sponsors. This means there are only 3 Democratic holdouts blocking this historic piece of pro-union, pro-labor legislation, and one of them is you, Senator Mark Warner. This is why we come directly to you on May Day to demand you side with your president and your fellow Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate, and most importantly, your working class constituents. History is being written right now, Senator Warner. Do you want to be remembered as a working class champion or as the guy who sided with his corporate donors to screw over unprotected employees during a global pandemic and economic crisis? All eyes are on you, Senator Warner. Do the right thing and co-sponsor the PRO Act. Thank you, everybody.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now! What do we want? When do we want it? Now! All right, team, that's the message. We are about to leave for Senator Warner. I'm going to give him a call. If you're at home watching the live streams, please pick up your phones right now. This is the number to call. 202-224-2023. We're going to press 1 and leave a message because it's Saturday and they don't work on the weekends.
Wait, can you repeat the number again?
I would like to leave an opinion for the senator. Very important. Senator Warner, this is Kristen Hoffman with Our Evolution, Virginia, and I'm standing outside your house in Old Town Alexandria with a coalition of over 150 people, including labor organizers and activists for working people. And we have a message for you. What do we want? The PRO Act! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? The PRO Act! When do we want it? Now! You heard the people, Senator. Do the right thing. Goodbye. All right, folks, one more speaker as we prepare to deliver our petitions.
All right, next let's give it up for Karishma Mehta, who is a preschool teacher, a community activist, and candidate for House Delegate in Virginia.
All right, Kristen is a tough act to follow, but let me hear some of that PRO Act energy. Let's go, some May Day energy. Thank you everyone for being here. It's an honor to be here and to speak with you all today. My name is Karishma Mehta. I'm a candidate for the House of Delegates in the 49th District, but more importantly, I am a working class preschool teacher who is fighting to unionize my workplace in a pandemic. I want to pause for a moment for everyone to take this moment in, because we are not just a part of history in the making. We are part of history, but we are also actively safeguarding the future for generations of workers that will come after us. That is a legacy that we can leave if we pass the PRO Act. So I want to start with a chant. And when I say union strong, you say union proud. Union strong. Union proud. Union strong. Union proud. Union strong. Union proud. Union strong. Union proud. My story is the story of so many people who live in the 49th District and all across Virginia. My parents, like so many of ours, came to the United States seeking a better life, better economic freedom, and education opportunities for our families. We struggled to put food on the table, to pay rent, to afford health care, and to live dignified lives in this country. As I grew up, I inherited so many of these struggles as a student at George Washington, as a graduate with thousands of dollars in student debt, working starvation wage jobs
for long hours every week. I skipped meals to avoid the doctor, to fund my own classroom, while watching my coworkers struggle with the same issues to provide for their families. That is the reality of working low-wage jobs in America. That is the reality of working without the protection of a union. Seeing my coworkers struggle with undignified working conditions, I took the step to start organizing my workplace alongside of my coworkers. Most preschool teachers are black and brown, and when researchers say that the ages 0 to 5 are the most developmentally critical years of a child's life, that is what we mean when we say we need dignified working conditions, because those are not just the conditions for our teachers and our educators, those are the conditions for our children. To take care of our babies, to take care of our students, we need dignified wages. We need a strong union workplace. We need to have a seat at the bargaining table. But of course, that's just the beginning of our fight. We know that our bosses use manipulative tactics, lies to divide us by race, by class, and we know that this is first and foremost a global working class struggle. All we want as workers are dignified wages, dignified working conditions. And the reality is that there is an organizer inside of all of us. And what the PRO Act will do is allow us to continue organizing together. That is why I'm out here as a supporter of the PRO Act. The PRO Act has a provision to ensure that big businesses do not twist the narrative that we so often see them using to push their propaganda in the workplace. In our country, where our textbooks and our education system erase the labor movement and are often so outwardly hostile to it, we need to ensure our right to organize through legislation like the PRO Act. The labor movement not only deserves a place in history and in our classrooms, but for our future and for generations of workers that will learn the lessons of labor in the classroom, who will understand what it means to fight for themselves and their families through the union process. So today and every day we must remember the struggle of organizers that came before us, the global struggle of the working class, and the lives that have been lost to ensure justice, equality, and an end to worker exploitation across the world. We are out here today continuing the fight of our labor and union siblings who came before us to demand respect, to demand dignity in the workplace. And the good news is that standing together, we will pass the PRO Act. We will demand that our senator do better. And we are out here to demand that our senator stand with us and not those corporate donors who so often exploit the people that live in Virginia. Our senator is one of only 3 Democrats who has not supported the PRO Act, and to us that is unacceptable. We deserve better, he knows we do, and Virginians deserve better to move forward for better lives. I'm so grateful for the solidarity today, and it's an honor to be here with you and to share a little bit about my struggle and why I'm here to support our struggle for the working class. So thank you so much. I'll end with another chant. So when I say union power on the rise, you say, now's the time to organize. Union power on the rise! Now's the time to organize! Union power on the rise! Now's the time to organize! Union power on the rise! Now's the time to organize! Let's go organize for the PRO Act, y'all.
Union on, we're gonna roll, we're gonna roll, we're gonna roll the union on. Oh, if Congress gets in the way, we're gonna roll right over them. We're gonna roll right over them. We're gonna roll right over them. Well, if Congress gets in the way, we're gonna roll right over them. We gotta roll the union on. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll.